Welcome to the Chance Gathering Table. What I got for you guys today is my Ninjutsu deck. This is my favorite deck, and the command running is Satoru Umezawa. He's a 3-drop for 1 mana, 1 blue, and 1 black. He does, whenever you activate a Ninjutsu ability, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. This ability triggers only once each turn. Each creature card in your hand has a Jutsu, and his Ninjutsu ability is 2, 1 black and 1 blue. Here I have my unblockable creatures. Now, these creatures are the most important creatures in the deck, as they are the foundation of how the deck runs. As for Satoru Umezawa, he is the core. So the unblockable creatures I have are Dalsy Voidwalker, Phantom Ninja, Triton Shorestalker, Phantom Warrior, Miss Cloaked Herald, Slitherblade, Changeling Outcast, Farbog Revenant, Goodle Lurker, Invisible Stalker, Tormented Soul. Now keep in mind, these creatures are cheap and fast to bring out, which is what you want running a Ninjutsu deck. Because the purpose for this deck is to not only switch out creatures, but you want to switch out more powerful creatures. And when that happens, when you bring on a more powerful creature, they come out tapped and attacking. So when this happens, for example, if I have my Tormented Soul out, if I have Satoru Umezawa out, for example, if he comes out swinging, Tormented Soul, if he attacks, he's unblockable. So that would therefore activate my Ninjutsu ability, and I would bring out my Blightsteel Colossus. Now this is my go-to instant win condition, because it's the easiest one. And with this, I would switch out my unblockable creature for Blightsteel Colossus, which he would do 11 Infect. Now, with him already having Trample, Infect, and Indestructible, this is a basic win condition, because he's doing 11 damage as Infect. So when he does 11 Infect damage, that person gets 11 poison counters, and you instantly win if your opponent already has 10 poison counters. So that's why that is my go-to winning condition. So the heavy hitters I have is, of course, Blightsteel Colossus, Progress Tyrant, another Djinn, Busher of Truth, Tromokratus, Primal Tide, Sheoldred Whispering One, Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger, Darksteel Colossus, and Ulamog the Infinite Gyre. So, my Drowsies in this deck, I say, are pretty overpowered. Now, keep in mind, they have the Annihilator 4 ability, which means whenever this creature attacks, the defending player sacrifices 4 permanents. Now, that kind of ability does not happen if I activate Ninjutsu. The only thing that happens when I activate my Eldrauzis onto the battlefield is they would only do 10 damage while they are tapped. Now, my next combat phase, that's when their actual abilities take place. Now, since I'm casting it, so with Olmog the Infinite Gyre, if I were to Ninjutsu it in, and since I'm casting it, I would destroy target permanent. But Annihilator 4 would not take place until my next combat phase if I still have him out. That's pretty much how my other Eldrauzis in this deck are. So now I like Darksteel Colossus because he kind of works like Blightsteel Colossus. And the reason why I like him is that if I have this card in my hand, Glistening Oil, he would have Infect. Now, keep in mind, he would already get a -1/-1 counter if I would enchant him with Glistening Oil, but he would still do 10 Infect damage, which is what you want. So that is another instant win condition. Progress Tyrant, he's pretty much a defensive card. He has whenever you cast an artifact, instant, or sorcery spell, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. This ability triggers only once each turn. So that's good. But he's better with this one, which means whenever an opponent casts an artifact, instant, or sorcery spell, counter that spell. This ability triggers only once each turn. So with him out, this is really a good defense card to keep my commander protected. So these cards here are more of my evasive creatures. They all have flying, and they give me a slight advantage in the game. This guy right here, Skithiryx the Blight Dragon, one of my favorite cards in this deck. One, I just like the artwork on this card. It is an alternate version of Skithiryx. A lot of people call him Skittles. Don't know why. I mean, I could kind of see it with Skithiryx, but whatever. But anyway, if you were to cast him, you could pay another swamp for him to have haste, and he would do 4 infect damage. Got Lord of the Void here. Whenever Lord of the Void deals combat damage to a player, exile the top 7 cards of that player's library, then put a creature card from among them onto the battlefield under your control. Now, I do have a lot of control strategies in this deck. As I'm switching in more powerful creatures into this deck in and out, I can also control my opponent's cards throughout the game, which can give me a slight advantage of what's happening. Runescar Demon. This card kind of works as a tutor, as when he enters the battlefield, search your library for a card, put it into your hand, and shuffle your library. So it is a good way for me to get, of course, Blightsteel Colossus out. Skydiver. 2-drop. She's also got a kicker cost. And this is important because when our creature enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, I'm able to gain control of target artifact with the converted mana cost X or less. Now, X is a variable. So, for example, if my opponent has a Soul Ring out, all I would have to do is pay 1 mana and 1 blue to bring this out, and then pay an extra 1 mana to take control of that Soul Ring. So that becomes important because I now have 2 extra mana to play with to cast something else, potentially. So if that artifact is an equipment, attach it to Thieving Skydiver. So this can also give me a slight advantage of the game. Siren Storm Tamer. It's got flying. Life field. It will draw a card. And it's only 1 blue and 1 black. Fitted Imp. Also flying. You can also pay 1 black mana. It gains Dead Touch until end of turn. Now, if I were to get this card out, I would just use it to block mainly. Ideal, I would activate this ability if I'm getting hit with a more powerful creature my opponent has. So this card is really a defense card for me. Ancient Silver Dragon, one of my favorite cards in the game, period. Now, whenever Ancient Silver Dragon deals combat damage to a player, roll a d20 and draw cards equal to the result. You have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. So this is a good card for gaining card advantage, especially if I'm running low on cards in my hand. I get this guy out, I would be able to hit my opponent up in the air and then roll a d20, and whatever number I get, I'm getting that amount of cards. So it's good for card draw. Now here's my other Ninjutsu cards. Most importantly, this guy, Thousand Face Shadow. He's got flying, which makes him evasive. His Ninjutsu ability is 2 and 2 blue. And when Thousand Face Shadow enters the battlefield from your hand, if it's attacking, create a token that's a copy of another target attacking creature. That token enters the battlefield tapped and attacking. And keep in mind, with my commander already being out, whenever you activate a Ninjutsu ability, look at the top 3 cards of your library. So I would look at the top 3 cards of my library to my activating Ninjutsu ability from any of my cards that have Ninjutsu. If I were to activate that ability, I'm going to look at the top 3 cards of my library and choose whatever one I would want to put in my hand, and then put the other 2 at the bottom. So that's another card advantage. Fallen Shinobi also got Ninjutsu. He deals combat damage to a player. That player exiles the top 2 cards of their library until the end of turn. You may play those cards without paying their mana cost. So again, that's why it's really important for me to have card advantage, so I can get as much land out as much as possible. Silent Blade Oni, he's a little expensive as he's a 3, 2 blue and 2 black, so a total of 7 drop. He's also got Ninjutsu. However, he deals combat damage to a player. Look at the top player's hand. Look at that player's hand. You may cast a spell from among those cards without paying its mana cost. And here we have Miss Syndicate Naga. He's also got Ninjutsu. He deals combat damage to a player and create a token that's a copy of Miss Syndicate. So it's a good way to keep on getting creatures out in the battlefield as I'm generating tokens as this guy attacks. Here I only have 2 planeswalkers, both Kaito, but this one's the Dancing Shadow. He's cool because whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you may return one of them to its owner's hand. If you do, you may activate loyalty abilities of Kaito twice this turn, rather than only once. So when that happens, I can activate one of these abilities twice. So I'm either getting 2 cards, or his +1 abilities up to 1 target creature can't attack or block until your next turn. So if I have one of my like if I have one of my creatures that are not unblockable, say if my opponent only has 2 creatures out, I'm obviously choosing those 2 creatures and they can't attack or block until my next turn. And that's good for me because I can still activate my Ninjutsu ability as they're attacking my opponent, being unblocked. And also his -2 ability is create a 2/2 colorless drone artifact creature token with Death Touch. And also when this creature leaves the battlefield, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So all around, he's a pretty good planeswalker. Last but not least, Gaito Shizuki. He's 3-drop for 1, and then 1 blue and 1 black. And he has, at the beginning of your end step, Kaito Shizuki entered the battlefield. This turn, he phases out. So, when he phases out, meaning he doesn't exist. So, you can't really attack him when he enters in the battlefield. So, his +1 ability is draw a card, then discard a card unless you attack this turn. -2 ability is create a 1/1 blue ninja creature token with this creature can't be blocked. So he would bring out a 1/1 blue ninja creature token and it can't be blocked. And his -7 ability is pretty cool. You get an emblem with whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, search your library for a blue or black creature card and put it into the battlefield, then shuffle. So it's a good way for me to look for whatever creature I still have left in my library. It could, like this ability could come in clutch. So, and emblems, when planeswalkers have emblems, they're abilities that automatically stay out. Like they stay out till the game is over. So that's why emblems are really important. Okay, so here I have several artifacts in this deck. One being Soul Ring. In my opinion, I think every deck should have Soul Ring. It's just practical with that deck. As it's just a 1-drop and you're just tapping it for 2. Here I have a Quicksilver Amulet. Now this card's good because if my commander is targeted, and if it gets put back into the command zone, that's okay, because as I have my Quicksilver Amulet here, I would cast it for 4, and then pay for, tap it, and I would be able to bring out any creature card from my hand onto the battlefield. So that's why this card is so good for me to have in there. Dermor Signet, it just gives me dual lands, so it gives you both black and blue for 1. It is a 2-drop. I got Lightning Greaves. It gives creature haste and shroud. So haste means a creature, usually when you bring out a creature, it would have summoning sickness. So haste prevents that. So when a creature comes out, if it has haste, it automatically attacks when it comes out. And shroud means it can't be the target of spells or abilities. So ideally, I would attach Lightning Greaves onto my commander just to protect it. So that way it couldn't be the target of spells or abilities. And what's also so good about this artifact is that it's a 2-drop and it's free to equip to any creature. Here I got my Arcane Signet. Add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. It's a 2-drop. I got Talisman of Dominance. And just add 1, or you can add 1 blue or black, and this artifact would do 1 damage to you. Got my Ginger Brute. It's got haste, and pay 1 as for Ginger Brute can't be blocked this turn except for creatures with haste. Or I could pay 2, tap it, and sacrifice Ginger Brute, and I will gain 3 life. Chaos Wand. This is one of my favorite artifacts. My opponents would just hate me playing this deck for this artifact due to the fact that it is a 3-drop, and I would pay 4 and tap it, and target opponent exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile an instant or sorcery card. And I may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Then put the exiled cards that weren't cast this way onto the bottom of that library in a random order. So I'm exiling cards until I see an instant or sorcery card my opponent has. And this can be really important. Like, this can turn the tides real quick in the game. So Phyrexian Metamorph. It's a 3-drop, as well as it can be paid for 1 blue or 2 life. So usually when you see this symbol here, it's a Phyrexian symbol. And usually Phyrexians, when they have this symbol for their mana cost, that's what this is. It can be paid with that certain colored mana or 2 life. So what makes this creature so important is that it can become a copy of any artifact or creature out on the battlefield. So it would really suck for my opponent if my Blightsteel Colossus was out, and if I were to cast this, it could become another copy. It could be another copy of Blightsteel Colossus. So, but usually if I would bring out Blightsteel Colossus, I've already won. But if they had some way to get around that, if I had this in my hand, I would be able to cast it and honestly create a copy of Blightsteel Colossus. So. And here I got Darksteel Ignite. It is indestructible. Add 1 mana of any color. It's a 3-drop. And here I have a Vorpal Sword. Now, it's cheap to bring out as it's just 1 black mana. And equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has Death Touch. Its equip cost is for 2 swamp. And for a total of 8 for 5 mana and 3 swamps, it has until end of turn. Vorpal Sword gains whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, that player loses the game. So ideally, what I would do if I had this card, if I already had one of my unblockable creatures out. So for instance, if I have Delphine Voidwalker out already, and if I could be able to cast this and equip it onto one of my unblockable creatures for it to be like this, if I have a total of 5 mana and another 3 swamps, it would be able to hit my opponent as this creature is basically unblockable. So it would hit my opponent just like that. And just like that, they would lose the game. So that is another instant win condition that could play out. In this deck, I have a total of 4 instant cards here. My favorite one being Blot Out. Now, I like this one. It just fits perfectly with this deck, especially with the artwork. It just fits the entire theme of this deck. And what this card does is it targets an opponent as it exiles a creature or planeswalker they control with the greatest mana value among creatures and planeswalkers they control. So say if they have a high-powered creature out in the battlefield, and if I don't have any unblockables, if I need to attack, if I cast this, that creature's going to go. So especially if it has the highest mana value among the creatures on their side of the battlefield. So this does come in handy. Got Keep Safe. It's a counter spell that targets a permanent you control, and I would draw a card. A good card for card advantage. Counter spell, self-explanatory. Lazo Tep Plating. I don't really care about the first ability here, but this card is good as it gives me and my permanents hexproof. So it's basically protection from whatever shenanigans my opponent is planning. So that's it. This is also good protection to keep my commander safe. Here I have my enchantments. So here I have a Phyresis. Now this card is really good because when a creature is enchanted with this card, say if I happen to have Umezawa the Infinite Gyre already out in battlefield, it kind of works like a Blightsteel Colossus. However, if I would cast this, enchant Umezawa here, it would also do 10 Infect, as it already is indestructible. It's got Annihilator 4, and whenever it's put into the graveyard from anywhere, its owner shuffles their graveyard into the library. Another good option I have is Umezawa the Ceaseless Hunger. So if this guy gets Infect, and pretty much game over. But anyway, this card is good because as this card attacks, defending player exiles the top 20 cards of his or her library. So that's really good. So my rest of my enchantments are Kazmina's Transmutation. Enchanted creature loses all abilities and has base power and toughness 1/1. So again, if there's a high power creature my opponent has, if I cast this, one good way to negate their abilities and power is to enchant that creature, and it would lose all abilities and toughness and drop down to 1/1. So Aqueous Form, again, enchant creature can't be blocked. So if I have a creature that's blockable, it would be unblockable as it obviously can't be blocked. And whenever a enchanted creature attacks, grant 1. So what this means is you look at the top card of your library, you may put that card on the bottom of your library. So say I'm scrying, so I will look at the top part of my library. If I don't like it, I'm putting it at the bottom. Now if I do like it, I'm just leaving it there. Kaya's Ghost Form. Enchant creature or planeswalker you control. When a enchanted permanent dies or is put into exile, return that card to the battlefield under your control. Now this would come in handy if I have my Blightsteel Colossus out, and if someone was trying to exile it, I would pay 1 mana, 1 black swamp to enchant Blightsteel here to prevent it from dying or going to exile, as it would just come back under my control. As for the sorceries here, Sakashima's Will is really important. Now, what this does is choose one. However, if you control a commander as you cast a spell, you may choose both. And both those abilities are target opponent chooses a creature they control, you gain control of it. Which really isn't that good, but whatever. But this one here is choose a creature you control. Each other creature you control becomes a copy of that creature until end of turn. So, for instance, if I have 2 unblockable creatures, and hold on here, if I have one of my flyers here. So, for example, if I have my Skitterix out, as well as my 2 unblockable creatures here, I cast this out, both my unblockable creatures would now become Skitterix. And as that happens, I'm doing damage up in the air for infect, so a total of 12 infect damage here. So that's how I'd play it. So this card could come in handy late, like in late game. So here I have another sorcery, Insert Enigma. Target creature can't be blocked this turn, draw a card. Blue Sun's Twilight. Gain control of target creature with mana value X or less. If X is 5 or more, create a token that's a copy of that creature. Again, great sorcery. Diabolic Tutor, 4-drop, 2 and 2 swamp. Search your library for a card and put that card into your hand, then shuffle your library. Demonic Tutor, 2-drop, and search your library for 1 card and take it into your hand, reshuffle your library afterwards. Divination, draw 2 cards. Good card for card advantage. And Stealth Mission, put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature you control. That creature can't be blocked this turn. Okay, now I'm running several special lands in this deck. One of them being Drowned Catacomb, Tainted Isle, Darkwater Catacombs, Submerged Boneyard, Fetid Pools, Choked Estuary, Dimmer Aqueduct, Temple of Deceit, Dismal Backwater, Sunken Hollow. And for my rare lands, I'm running 11 Black Swamps and 13 Islands. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That concludes my Ninjutsu deck. So the pros with this deck is it's a good way to cheat out a higher powerful, more expensive creatures out in the battlefield. Playing this deck throughout the game, it is a good way to gain card advantage as well as controlling creatures that your opponent has. All around, it's a very fun deck. However, I've had issues to where sometimes I would be short on one land while my opponent would ramp up more quickly than my deck would be playing. But I've only had that's only happened a few times. But however, other than that, it's a pretty powerful deck. I like it, it's pretty fun. But comment, I want to know what your thoughts are on it, and let me know if you have a Ninjutsu deck. I would be really interested on, knowing about it and what kind of strategies you guys are running. So, but thanks guys. Thanks for watching. See you later.